So this is our all familiar, market model, right? We have, if I may, so we have the supply function that tells me that quantity supplied is a function of price and some other things. Quantity demanded is a function of price and some other things. And then in equilibrium, market is going to clear, right? So this is very simple static market model. So what we see here is that if there is a price level P star and there is a quantity level Q star that equates quantity supplied to quantity demanded in an industry or in a market, then we call these things equilibrium price and equilibrium supply. So in that model, if I, for instance, say quantity supplied is a function of technology or productivity, and quantity demanded is a function of income, let's say, right? So X is productivity, all right, and Y is income, let's say, right? So then we have this model where in that model there are some endogenous variables and some exogenous variables, right? So the endogenous variables are price, quantity supplied, and quantity demanded, right? Your exogenous variables would be income and productivity, right? And then there will be some structural parameters in your D function and in your S function. So at the end, you can use these equations and these definitions together. So these are equations you are going to use as well. So at the end, you're going to express price as a function of income and income and productivity. You're going to express quantity. Of course, these are now equilibrium quantities and prices, and you're going to express quantity as a function of productivity and income, right? So this becomes, let me change color. So this becomes your solution. All right. Now, why is this important? Because this thing, this is the value according to the neoclassical theory of value, right? So we have labor theory of value. Remember? Labor theory of value. We have subjective theory of value. So this is usually classics, right? And then we have some Austrians' view on subjective theory of value. And this thing, this model, is simply called neoclassical theory of value. So in classics usually think about the supply function, and Austrians usually think about demand functions, okay? So if you want to categorize these value theories, we see that classics are mostly interested in supply functions and supply prices or natural prices in their terminology. Austrians are thinking about the ownership, right? The demand side. So if I own this, what is the subjective value that I assign to the last or the marginal unit of this good, all right? So they think simply about demand. But in the neoclassical theory of value, which we can actually associate with Alfred Marshall's, and this is actually called Marshall's scissors, because there is a scissor here, right? Supply and demand. So the only value, according to the neoclassical analysis, the only value that can be objectively studied is the price, the exchange value of a good or a service. And that exchange value is determined by both supply and demand. All right? So the things that change quantity supplied given price, the things that change quantity demanded given income, then determines for a given price, there is a quantity demanded, which is depending on, of course, income. At a given price, there's quantity supplied, which also depends on, of course, productivity in the simple model. So this allows us to think about both the scarcity, right? A good or service becomes more valuable in the markets if it is scarcer, right? Something that is scarce should be more valuable according to supply view. And the choice part is also important, because if people prefer something, then if more people prefer something, or if people prefer something more, then that should be also valuable. So demand side enters the picture there. So the classical theory of value then takes both the demand and the supply channels into account, and they argue the only type of value an economist can actually study in an objective manner is the price. Of course, this is also open to discussion, open to philosophical or methodological debates, but this was their view, and this is still the main foundational principle of entire neoclassical analysis. All right? So you can compare this with the classics view, Smith, Ricardo, Marx. Also, you can go to Menger and, von Mises and other Austrians to look at how they try to understand the value of a good or service. But in a classical view, Marshall, Walras, and Jevons, and all the other founding fathers of neoclassical analysis, you can find basically a neoclassical theory of value, and that theory is what you always saw in your studies, in your earlier lectures. But this is the understanding. This is the foundation of entire general equilibrium theory, because this is actually the heart of neoclassical analysis. All right. So So do you have any questions about this?
No.
So it is all very familiar, but now possibly you're going to see it in a different angle, right? So this is what you have always been taught, right? So these are, income, productivity. So there's quantity supplied, quantity demanded. Of course, there is a dynamic version of it. You must have studied this in your mathematical economics classes. You're gonna see a dynamic version here as well. But let me now save it and continue with some other stuff. Okay, so what I said earlier is that all general equilibrium models have what I call dual core. Okay, one, agents optimize. Okay, and second, markets clear. Okay, you can still see the whiteboard, right?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the dual core of general equilibrium theory. Okay? So when I say agents optimize, I basically talk about two methodological principles. Okay? One is methodological individualism. Oops. Oops. Okay. Oops. Shit. Okay. Methodological individualism. Okay. And the other thing is methodological instrumentalism. Okay. So according to the methodological individualism, we go to the level of the individual. All right. Which means we have households, consumers, firms, banks, governments. Okay? And when I talk about instrumentalism, I basically mean we give these agents objectives. Okay? Objectives in life. Okay? So in the case of households and consumers, they are basically interested in utility maximization, right? Firms and banks, they're interested in profit maximization. Government is interested indirectly in the utility of people. Okay? Of course, if the government is benevolent. Right? So, methodological individualism and methodological instrumentalism are key things, key philosophical or methodological foundations behind the view of, agents optimized. So we're gonna create these agents, we're gonna endow them with objective functions, and we're gonna let them behave to optimize their decisions for meeting these objectives. Okay, utility maximization, profit maximization, or cost minimization. For government, that is benevolent, utility maximization of people or social welfare. All right? So those are the things. And so you can actually use rationality here, right? So people are going to meet these objectives they have in their life, and they're gonna be rational in that sense. Okay? People are gonna be rational because if people are rational, they think about their objectives, they think about their constraints, they take scarcity as given, and their constraints are there, and their objective functions are there. So they take decisions rationally to optimize their decisions to meet their objectives. All right. Now the third important methodological foundation is equilibrium reasoning. Okay? What does it mean? It means that we analyze these economies as if they always try to go to reach an equilibrium. All right? So in the real world, when you look at the real world, sorry, when you look at the real world, you see a complexity. Now, some minds, some eyes, when they look at this complexity, they see disequilibrium. Some other eyes, some other visions, they see equilibrium. All right. So there are disequilibrium models in the economic domain as well, but here general equilibrium theory basically take equilibrium as a reference point. So when I change a variable, and remember this animal. Remember this? So there is this endogenous variable yj, and I want to study the effects of this exogenous variable xi on this endogenous variable yi. Now, general equilibrium theory tells you that first you need to find equilibrium because this derivative will be equal to the derivative of f. Sorry, this is not correct. So derivative of the function f x alpha with respect to xi. Okay? And let's say f j here because this is for variable j. Okay? So general equilibrium theory tells you that you can take this derivative, you can analyze the effect of variable x, you can study the effect of variable x on variable j by after only solving the model. Okay? So this is the equilibrium reasoning. So for this reason, we impose market clearing. Okay? Of course, in some dynamic versions, we're gonna let prices change in time. Okay? We're gonna see those dynamic models as well. But in those models, we still have the excess demand function, and excess demand function will tend to go to 0. Okay? So those are the philosophical foundations of the general equilibrium theory, which I call dual core. Okay? So any general equilibrium model will have agents. Agents will optimize. Okay? And markets are going to clear. All right? Any questions about this? Okay then. So let me check one thing. Okay. So for next week, I want you to read the introduction and I think it was chapter 1, the Walrasian equilibrium, positive properties of Walrasian equilibrium. Okay? And I also want you to think about the meaning of the things that we discussed today. Okay? So, what does it mean to have scarcity? What is choice? What is value? Think about these things because we're going to see that the Walrasian equilibrium or the general equilibrium we're going to study will have positive properties such as existence, uniqueness, and stability, but also normative properties. So we are not only interested in what is, but we are interested in what should be. Okay? So welfare properties of Walrasian equilibrium are important. So, but for the next week, just read the text until including existence and uniqueness. Perhaps stability will wait for another week. but please pay attention to the concepts here, okay? And what are the philosophical meanings of optimization? What is the philosophical meaning of going to the level of the agent, level of the individual? What the imagine yourself. Do you see equilibrium when you look out the window, or do you see disequilibrium? Think about these things as an economist. All right. So next week we're gonna have some philosophical discussion as well. Sorry, but then we're gonna see the simple Warozine model. Now, a couple of things before we go. Um, Let me also export this very quickly. Maybe we can use these later on. So, general equilibrium theory that we are going to use will be, of course, a mathematical theory. So one thing that you can refresh your minds with is Greek alphabet, all right? Because we're gonna use many different Greek letters throughout the class, and of course they have different meanings. They will have different meanings, okay? So these are the most commonly used Greek letters. Okay, sigma, tau, epsilon, eta. There's omicron. There's iota. Zeta. Okay. There's theta. There's phi. So, and there are some others. Okay. Now, importantly, your textbook used zeta as the excess demand function. Okay, so this is zeta. So don't make the Greek alphabet intimidate you. All right, just to refresh your memory with the Greek alphabet. And also again, read the textbook. Okay. So I think this is all for today. If you have no questions or comments, again, as I said, so this will be a demanding course in terms of mathematical modeling and microeconomic theory. So if you do not feel very comfortable with these subjects, you may try, you may think about dropping it. But at your capacity, at your intellectual level, if you study hard, if you follow all the lectures, and if you do the math by your own at home, you should be fine. One other thing, again, I should mention before closing this first lecture is that you should think about not dropping this class if you want to go to master's level or doctoral level studies in economics, because this is very fundamental to all the things that you will see at the graduate level. Okay, so my purpose wasn't to intimidate you, not at all. But I'm just talking about realities. If you find mathematical stuff extremely daunting, then you must be, of course, thinking about dropping. But this is relevant to if you want to go to master's level classes later on after you graduate, then you should not drop this class and you should cope with it. Okay, if you have no questions or comments, I will call it a day. But I have time. We have time. The floor is yours. If you have questions, comments, anything to add, any recommendations regarding the use of Zoom or the graphic pad, etc. I can prepare slides as well, but most of the time I will be deriving mathematical formulas, so I think slides are not particularly helpful. If you see the material in the slides, this is totally different than seeing me doing it row by row. Okay, so for this reason I'm using the pad, but if you have other comments or suggestions or recommendations or complaints, uh, I would like to hear them here. Otherwise, we're gonna go home, you're gonna read the text, you're gonna refresh your memory about the Greek alphabet, and next week we're gonna start studying the vowels in Elective.
I have no recommendation. Thank you for the class.
Thank you. You're welcome. Any other thing? Any other input? Okay.
It was great.
The number of participants is now down to 6,
Decreasing and decreasing.
which means there are 5 students. Possibly we are fastly converging to the optimal level. So, all right then. Thanks for showing up. Now I am closing the record.